Hey folks, welcome back to the shop. Today I'm going to do a little bit of hand carving on the lathe. I'm making a diamond painting pen with a diamond cast blank from Mackenzie Penworks. This is their unicorn poop. And I'm going to be turning it into what I call a wand shape, which entails me doing a carved spiral like this one I've already done, and this will just show the process that this takes to do. And this was part of an order, so it won't be for sale, but if anybody wants one like this, you can order a custom by contacting me via Facebook or on my Etsy shop, LassenLatheWorks.etsy.com. And there's a link in my bio, and I'll put a link in the description to my Etsy shop and my Facebook group and all that happy stuff. So, with that out of the way, let's get turning. These have already been drilled. 30 seconds are the size of the hole. And if my jig looks a little different than what you've seen other turners use, it's because, well, this is how I like to do it. I have a drill bit that's turned around backwards, that's chucked into my, there's a Novichok. So that's just the end of a drill bit. This is just a little piece of acrylic that lets me push against something and provides a little bit more support for the blank. So crank it up tight, and we're gonna turn it. First things first, we are going to round this end, and well, we're going to true it up, then I'll round the end, put in my little notch, the ring, and I'll start to taper this down. One trick I learned to do on tapers is putting your tool up, and instead of keeping it flat the whole time as you're going through, give it a little bit of an angle. It'll maintain your curve, and when it stops to cut, you'll know that you're at the proper angle. So just keep it cutting with an angle, and it shears a lot nicer, works a little bit better, and gives you a very clean cut. As you can see, I could probably get away with sanding that down and being done in like 5 minutes. But now comes to the fun part. I get to cut the spiral. Now you can either sand before, sand after. I don't find a use in sanding first because you're gonna scratch it. The file's gonna slip and you're gonna scratch it. So I start off, this is actually a rasp, coarse rasp. I'm not sure what the size of it is. It says it's a Nicholson file, but it doesn't have a shit size on it. So this is a real good file. I've had it for quite a while. So what I do to start is I just find a spot that I like to start. It looks good. Like, I think I'll start right here. And you gotta use your finger. Don't be shy. Cut a nice groove. Just start real slow. Now this is gonna establish your angle. Cut a decent little groove. I'm gonna take that up towards, I guess this would be the hilt, because it's kind of like a knife or a wand. So we're gonna take that up, and we'll smooth that little line out, and we're just gonna, every stroke or two, you just give it a little bit of a twist on the thing. There's an indexing option you can use on a lathe to do this on bigger pieces that helps quite a bit. But on smaller pieces, it doesn't help that much. So I like to go back after little ways and clean up just so I could see if I'm keeping a good depth. I'm going to continue. Told you I was going to slip at least once. I always do. And you see I put a few scratches in. So, okay. So I've got down to where I like it. Gonna clean up these lines a little bit. The cleanup and the final shaping is still to come. This is just to take any of the ridges that's left from the back and forth motion out. Okay, now to do the next flute or spiral or whatever you'd like to call it. I find a couple little taps takes the dust out of your tool quite well, but if it starts to clog up, you need to get a little file card. This one's got a bunch of crap stuck in it, but this is what it just cleans the parts out of your file. Makes a nice surface again. Now we're gonna start. I just pick a spot in between the two that looks fairly equal and start my initial cut. The second flute I find goes a little faster than the first. In case you're wondering, yes, it does take quite a bit of toll on your hands, but it is worth it in the end. Because this is a forgotten about skill many turners never bother to learn. Now that that's done, as you can see, it's got a pretty smooth for the most part. I don't see any, maybe right there. Just taking off any of the high spots. I'm going to come in, and this is just a chainsaw file, cheap chainsaw file you get at Tractor Supply or wherever you find chainsaws. And I'm going to use this to roll the edges over to make it look more natural. As you can see, it goes from this just groove cut and it rolls it in and almost makes it look like rope, or in this case, unicorn horn. Use this file to taper it down into the hilt a little bit better. This file I find is about the equivalent of maybe 320 sandpaper. Okay. Now I've got that done. Now to do a little bit of sanding. So I dry sand most of these because I want to dry sand the bottom of the flutes. With the machine spinning, it's very hard to sand it. If you sand the fluted area while it's spinning, you will flatten off all that work that I just did. And the sanding is really just to smooth out the tool marks made by the file, because I'm going to do most of the polishing on my buffer. It's just a lot easier. Now this is 400 grit sandpaper. And you got to kind of be creative. Getting all the grooves. And that happens. Ooh, that takes a toll on your hands. Okay. Okay, now I'm going to sand this little piece here real quick with some wet sandpaper. Starting at 400. Remember to get the bottom of your rings, or beads, depends on your terminology. At 400 you can get away when it's real slow, give just the sand across the top. Don't get too aggressive. And we got 600. And a little bit of 800. Now I'm going to take this over to my buffing wheel and do the final buffing on it. I have a 3-stage buffing wheel. As you can see, that cleaned it up quite nicely. Okay, we're at the buffing wheel. We're going to dress the wheels first. This is a black emery compound, and I'm going to apply it to a yellow treated stitched buff. I have a non-treated cotton buff that I'll use with the Tripoli, and a soft cotton buff that I will use with the white diamond compound. So let's dress them up. Now we are going to use this to do most of my sanding. This is the equivalent of about 600 grit to 1,000. Not real sure on this buff, but it will clean up all of the marks and the spots inside this, and these will polish out any of the scratches. And there it is. One wand-shaped spiral cut diamond painting pen. Just needs tips. And it'll be ready to go. Thanks for watching. If you want to see more, like, subscribe, do all that YouTuber stuff. And feel free to leave me a comment. Tell me what you want to see. See you in the next one.